Gen AI has become so, public facing, ubiquitous. But the primary piece of it is if you want better analysis, obviously the more sample, the more data, the better, or using Ada, which is our generative AI tool.
Hello, welcome everyone to the next episode of the AM Media House podcast Simulated Reality. Today we have with us the co-founder and co-CEO of SightX, Tim Lawton. Hi Tim, how are you doing today?
Good to be here.
Yeah, right. This is the closest I've been to the Central Park. I've been to New York a couple of times. Quite a hectic journey, as I told you.
Never easy. Commuting in the city.
The funniest part about New York subways is I always end up taking downtown and uptown. For all the AI that we have invented, I think the first problem we need to fix is make it easier for people to understand.
There's a lot of problems in New York City subway. So.
Graver issues. What inspired you to start SightX? You and your co-CEO. Who's your co-CEO?
So two great questions. Naira Masalam is my co-founder, co-CEO, and dear friend. And interestingly, neither one of us came from this industry. Her background in academia and for a time in consulting, running an R&D team, but not specifically kind of the world we live in now. And before that, I was in investment banking here in the city and actually in the military before that. And when we met, became friendly, as you do, you complain about work and have ideas. And this kind of bigger picture idea that we always had, or Naira kind of initially saw in her kind of straddling the worlds of academia and consulting, and working with companies that are having these questions about industry trends or consumers and things like that. Data capture at scale, right? Understanding a human cohort, if you will, but it can be a customer, it can be an employee, it can be a patient. But doing that at scale and speed, and more importantly, kind of automating the analysis and insights and things where historically, and even to some extent now still, there is a very fragmented, very opaque process within market research, agencies, and relationships and things like that, handling most of the work, and it's evolved. I think it's one of the fewer, industries or industry silos, if you will, that's yet to be really pushed to be tech enabled and tech forward, which presents a lot of exciting opportunities for companies like ours. But we saw that there was that need, and the experience I had with similar types of tools that were being used and things, it really just struck us as a really fascinating problem to solve, and opportunity, obviously. And initially, it wasn't specifically about consumer or market research. It was really just that kind of process improvement, if you will. And then as we began sort of really narrowing down towards the consumer space, and for us, obviously, to focus on that in the application and who our end user were, and then that starts to inform the software and user interface and features and things. And then, we've sort of kind of evolved as we've grown the company in the industry, and continue to see the problems to be solved and how those have continued to evolve in other technology applications like ours, which is exciting because it's a lot of change continually happening in the industry. And then all of a sudden last year, where Gen AI has become so, public facing, ubiquitous, opened up another, I think, interesting opportunity for any company, but particularly for kind of earlier stage companies, where it levels that playing field for us to compete at scale and develop those applications for our customers so they can compete at scale and with much larger companies as well.
SightX, on the other hand, if I go to the website, right, primarily it appears that it is a AI services company, right? Like it uses AI to kind of take up a problem statement or use case and improve its efficiency. Now, one of the things that when I was speaking with you struck me is the primary research angle to it, and which I will come to. But when you and Naira started the entire thought process behind building the AI company, what was it that you decided will be your USP that will separate you from? Because there are so many.
Yeah, great question. For us initially, and even still to this day, it's always been around the automation of the process, but more importantly, the analysis and insights and doing that at speed and scale. Where again, even now, sometimes it's like, oh, we use Excel for this, or we use Tableau for this, or we use this tool for this, use case, and that tool for that use case. so initially that was this is the thing we're going to focus on in the analysis, making it, democratizing it, for lack of a better word, for anybody. So you don't have to be a PhD statistician or a data scientist, right? But that type of analysis and information and insights is important for, and should be widely shared, or say even in nowadays, the way the speed of consumers, the economy and things. But that was the initial idea, and then we had to evolve the platform into meeting the needs of the industry, which is obviously we got to do the data capture piece. So let's evolve the platform to build a survey tool so we can own the data structure and things like that, so it can automate it. And then obviously technology and artificial intelligence is making that easier. But as a company, one of our kind of bigger value adds is really the flexibility and the types of analysis and scale and speed we can do it at, and really the power that we provide our users. So again, you don't have to be, it helps if you're a trained statistician, but you don't have to be. You have the access to these types of tools and analysis where previously you didn't.
Got it. So democratization was the main motive behind.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, putting the power of some of these, previously, I would say untouchable, but not as widely used or not easily as accessible types of tools for really advanced type of research, or you just have the technology types in general, artificial intelligence and whatnot.
But now it has shaped up to be slightly different than what you initially planned. Right?
Initially, I think that what's interesting about our journey is that initial, that 30,000 foot view hasn't changed, and we started to narrow that focus towards how we're going to apply it in the consumer space and market research. So in that sense, it's changed considerably in terms of the features and functions and applications that the platform is designed for. So we never really pivoted in that sense, but we've really just kind of continued to evolve and improve towards that, taking that still kind of initial idea and refining and improving how it's applied, really.
Mm-hmm. And the how part of it is basically where you are headed right now.
Yep.
One of the things that really struck me, as I mentioned before, is the angle to primary research. Now, primary research is something that we also do to an extent, where we kind of reach out to a lot of leaders and understand market trends, which helps our vendors to make decisions, intelligent decisions based on sort of things. At the same time, it also helps consumer companies to make decisions on which are the right data sets and service providers. The sample size for it is considerably smaller than what big data is, right?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, vastly different. Yeah.
While you do cover your tracks in terms of sampling according to your needs and hosting focus groups or using different kinds of research methods to do that, how did you envision primary research would marry into the world of data analytics, and did it turn out that way?
Good question. I think we still think of that way of kind of like the connection between primary and secondary research and the different data sets and things. I think the scale of some of those secondary data sets, from whether it's operational data, sales data, or data lakes or whatever it may be, they're still important. There's trends, there's certain things that you need to, even business of any shape or size should be looking at that to extract any sort of interesting trends or things that are important for you about your business, consumers, or what have you. But the primary piece of it is the why, as we kind of talk about, is like, that, and again, there's you can see the trends, you can see the patterns, but until you ask somebody, right? One of our advisors, this is a few years ago, had said, and kind of brought this to light, and I always kind of use this analogy. He said, I was on Facebook the other day, and there was a post, and it was about a death in the family, and it was, it wasn't a happy post, but I clicked like. He said, but I clicked like, but more of like the acknowledgement, but I didn't actually like the thing of the post. It was more just an engagement piece. But the understanding the why behind that, like, why did you purchase this thing? Why did you engage with that piece of media? Did you like it? Was it an accident? Did you buy it for yourself? Did you buy it for a friend? So it's even some of that, those larger data sets, if you will, are very important and can give you really insightful information. But at the end of the day, you still need to know why it happened to really make really impactful decisions about your company, about the direction. Because without that, you're not necessarily blind completely, but you don't have that as clear a sight, if you will, for where you move in your business.
One of the things I was speaking with, so I was doing this research a couple of years back. We were trying to identify the state of responsible AI in India. What that means is essentially identifying best practices taken by enterprises to ensure that their AI is responsible. So we try to identify what are some of the different parameters in this responsibility, and then identify this thing. Now, what I did was I reached out to a lot of leaders, obviously data science leaders, to fill out this form, and I got a lot of data out of it. But then that was my primary research, and did not understand some of the whys. So then I set up meetings with them, and then I did some focus groups, and kind of this thing. So I kind of very much understand why, and I'm not too sure why everybody does not do it at this point, right? Like, because humongous amounts of data, and then even for that matter, if you do market research on, let's say, the stocks you're investing, you identify. Obviously, I don't trade daily or that kind of thing. I'm not equipped to. But when I do that, I just see some indices that have performed well, and then based on historical data, but never ask why. One of the questions that I have for you is, can you give us an example, like, a real world example of how it married together the primary research and the secondary research? When you are trying to do the primary research, right, where do you go for, right? It's mainly to do with consumers. Are you doing it across different consumers of your clients? And if yes, what are some of the best ways to reach out to these these people, and how did you hire a third-party agency to do that research, and do you do it internally? What are some of the best practices to make sure that you get a good sample?
Good question, and that's one that where's the data come from, the sample quality, all that sort of stuff is it will probably always be top of mind, and for good reasons. So for SightX, we're, I'll say, sample or panel agnostic, right? So we're behind the scenes technology, and there's a whole nother industry that's behind us for these sample providers, essentially the organized communities of consumers, but it could be business leaders, doctors, regular consumers, anybody that's kind of opt into these communities that say, I'll take some surveys for you if you reach out to me. And there's different ways that they're incentivized, but we're, that's not our business. We're agnostic to it. So we have APIs and relationships with a lot of these companies around the world. So if you're, we'll pair you, if you're in India, we want to pair you with the sample providers that we know are kind of the best in class in that geography and so on and so forth. So in terms of connecting, again, we have API connections, but there's if you need to DIY it yourself, you can do that. If you have your own audience, that's possible. So that's, what we offer is the connection, but also the data quality checks and things like that as a service or part of the platform, if you will. And then the sample size itself is really kind of project dependent, and your needs of the project. And if it's just, hey, I just need a couple answers for something that's directionally correct. You hear the word agile thrown around a lot in this industry, kind of quick turn type of things, all the way through, large brand tracking studies that run over time, and there are thousands of responses and things. So it depends is my favorite answer. It depends on what the project is, what the intent is, and
the research method also.
The methodology and how and where we, I think the general rule of thumb is, and interesting for what our value proposition is like the analysis side of it. So if you want better analysis, obviously the more sample, the more data, the better. But the kind of the baseline is think forward and think through the types of analysis you want to do and how many cuts of the data. So males versus female, or Indian consumers versus European consumers, and however many ways you want to kind of cut that data down. Those become those kind of sub-segments of the data, as long as that smallest version of those smaller sub-segments are big enough for you to get some statistical significance, if you will, out of it, or enough data to where it's like actually valid. That's kind of how you got to think of it, kind of work backwards that way to kind of determine what the sample sizes you really need for what your intention is.
Got it.
For what your goal
and
is.
one of the things that I'm realizing from this is that it's not that simple, right? Like conducting primary research is while we're talking about using technology to democratize data analytics, democratization of primary research is in itself a very interesting subject. While there may not be a very direct answer to how to solve that question, what are some of the ways or advice, what is some advice that you would give data leaders who are doing it for their companies? Let's say there is a big CPG company who's trying to identify the sale patterns.
Yeah.
This thing. I'm sure CPG companies do it to an extent.
Yeah,
like
quite a bit, yeah.
This thing. But let's say, an industry which is primarily not being so heavily focused on primary research, what are some of the benefits that they are bound to get if they do it, and how are some of the ways that you suggest them to take it?
One, you should do it. And again, right, any industry, right? It's like, yeah, you just gotta do it. But I think it's that why at the end of the day. Like, so regardless of industry or size of customer base or whatever, I think the benefits of market research are, I don't want to say different, but kind of adjacent, if you will, the benefits of just artificial intelligence and the combination thereof. I think for primary research, it's really, again, just kind of figuring out the why. Like, why are they buying your product? Why did they not buy your product? So on and so forth. Everything from pricing to design reactions to, it doesn't have to be consumers. It could be business leaders or healthcare professionals or have you. So I think the benefits of that are really understanding and now in a way to do it in a kind of data-driven way, making those decisions about your company strategy, go-to-market plans. How and when you should launch a product, what you should charge for it, any of those things. If you're guessing, good on you. But if you can actually have data behind these things for why you're making decisions, I think the components it really just helps with, like any technological application, right? It's like speed and cost immediately, or that is why we build these things to do things faster, better, cheaper. And on the primary research side, the way it's being democratized, if you will, is that it gives anybody the ability to come into SightX, use preset templates we've designed, that we've offered, design your own questions if you want to, if you have ideas, or you work with an agency, if you will, or using Ada, which is our generative AI tool or assistant, which was the first in the industry. We continue to kind of build and evolve Ada, but you can query Ada for knowledge transfer. I think, the way I think of it is kind of top to bottom to the research process. What question should I ask?
Yeah.
What method should I use?
Do you think that it can too soon start replacing, and the use case that you are saying is basically understanding what are good questions to ask? But instead of that, why can't we just ask questions to them? Because they are the ChatGPT, or they're scoring scores and scores of internet data.
Yeah.
Right? So then probably just ask them the data. Like, do you think that it will soon start replacing that, or it will never replace primary research?
Never say never. But I think in that is closer to just looking at a secondary data set, right? Like, let's look at the sales trend and extrapolate some insights from it. But the asking the why, I don't think will ever go away. And again, even ChatGPT and these LLMs, they're generating unique outputs, but it's informed and based off of historical data still. They're not sentient yet. So again, never say never. But it's not only that, but I think the fundamental premise of primary research is a human in the equation. Right? So I need to ask somebody, otherwise you're guessing, or you're forming yourself based off of historical data, which is the same as anyone's doing now with secondary data sets and things like that. So and so for two reasons, I think the human in the equation has to be there, but also in how we talk to our users and clients as well, is any form of technology, whether it's Excel or Ada, is going to analyze the data, and that's it. And it's just going to tell you, is this important? Is it significant? Did this concept win? What price should we charge? All those types of things. We'll tell you if it's important, whether it's insightful to your business and your strategy. That's up to you. Your business. Yeah. That component. So I think the roles in the industry will change. The quicker ones, it's probably already happening now and pretty much overnight, are the data scientists and the some of the support roles and the data analysis type of focus roles, where they still need to have roles, but their roles are changed from grunt work. I need to process this in a spreadsheet. I need to do the manual tasks we'll get you to the end state. So you can, in one of our taglines at SightX is automating curiosity. it's tough to be curious when you're just heads down trying to calculate the numbers. So if we can get you to that end state as fast as possible, so you can then be curious about the data, about your business. So like I have asked questions of the data, determine if it's insightful or important for you. That's on you and for the business leaders that know their business and run their business. Technology right now is just going to get you to that end state faster, and SightX will give you the important information about your project, what your goals and things, and then it's up to you to determine if it's actually insightful and whether or not you should implement it. Just because a whole bunch of consumers said one thing, take it with a grain of salt, evaluate it in your current business or past projects and future projects and things like that. So again, I think the roles will evolve in terms of what you do day to day to a large extent, but there's not many, I think, that are going away overnight. I think it's, AI and SightX and Ada, they're augments to your team that help you scale, do things better, faster. So I don't have to do the busy work that I just don't want to do. Very few people are hired to sit in an Excel sheet and crunch numbers. People are hired to think strategically, creatively, and then figure out how to apply those creative and insightful decisions to your business.
Whatever.
Humans can't be taken out of the equation just yet. Yeah. It's the upper word.
Looking at what are some of the trends and technologies that you not in terms of predicting something which will happen 5 years down, 10 years down the line in terms of Gen AI, but just from the perspective of understanding what are some of the immediate next probably 6 months, 1 year, how do you see your product evolving? What are some of the things that you are integrating? Why are you doing that?
And that's what I think in the last, I think we've had AI in SightX since inception. I jokingly call it the old school AI, statistics and machine learning and traditional AI.
It was 50-year-old.
Exactly.
It was.
It is. But and now with the generative applications, that we really started to work on and implement last year. Really exciting, a lot of opportunities and things. So I think for us, we've taken the kind of, as we, since inception, the automation of the really advanced statistical types of analysis and research and outputs, layer that on now with the generative piece to kind of go all the way back to the beginning of the research equation for the knowledge transfer. What should I ask? What methodology should I use? The data capture and the analysis piece. But what's really cool now with Ada to even continue to evolve the better, faster, cheaper, and get you to the end state faster. Not only doing the quantitative and qualitative analysis stuff, but also generating executive summaries. So with Ada, you can just press a button based off your data. Again, you need to determine if it's insightful or not or worthwhile, but it'll give you an executive summary write-up of your research project, and the things are in there. Can do things like generate a blog post, suggest ad campaigns and creative collateral. Those are the things we're doing now, and you can query in the beginning of the project or the end about the analysis, and you can jump into the dashboard and do it yourself, or just qualitatively kind of query Ada and she'll run the analysis for you. And that's only evolving, and more of that type of stuff and capabilities are coming in and that we're releasing. But I think some of the next phases we're already kind of doing our own research on and implementing soon. So in the next couple months, things like text to image, video translation, video analysis, and things like that. And who knows, what's next in terms of types of surveys or types of consumer engagements that are possible. But I think some of those near-term things are getting into the creative assets and how those things to even scale marketing or creative types of teams, so you don't have to use another platform for that thing, and then come back here to do research. And who knows? There's a lot of things happening overnight. Literally, last week, 4.0 ChatGPT 4.0 came out or whatever it is, and then Gemini has another update a week later, a couple days later. So and we're again similar to the sample agnostic, like we're AI agnostic, if you will, and we're and like a lot of companies are, we just want to take the best applications that are out there, apply them to this, right? Because like ChatGPT is not built for market research. We've taken that, and our product team's taken that and curated it and make sure that it's giving you the information that's relevant to this industry, to your type of company, and really just offering those in a kind of a prepackaged way and much more streamlined way for you to utilize those technologies without having to go someplace else and almost like hack that platform or whatever to get it to apply to your use case, specific use case in this industry. We're doing a lot of that work for you in the application itself, and helping you making suggestions, or Ada's making suggestions on.
So your bot is called Ada, is it?
Ada, yep.
Yeah, and after Ada Lovelace?
After Ada Lovelace, you get that? Yeah.
Fantastic. Tim, it has been a fun conversation. I think I always like to learn about newer companies, but especially when I have something different, I love the approach that you've been taking. I really understand the thought process behind understanding the whys of the what. Many of my projects have been very driven by understanding or crowdsourcing information from senior executives in the AI and data science industry, because they bring the perspective, right? Data can tell you so many things.
Exactly.
This is the whys behind it. Also, very, very good example of whys, at least until now, or even in the coming few years at least, we will not replace humans completely, and
I hope not from at all. Yet though.
Yeah. A fantastic conversation. Thank you so much for inviting me. Always need a reason to come into the city.
Anytime.
I love New York, so thank you so much.
Pleasure. Yeah, thanks for doing it. Appreciate it.